नमस्कार मंडळी. Very good afternoon everybody. माझं नाव उमेश उद्गावकर. I will start a little bit in Marathi and then move on to English for Joe's convenience. So सर्वप्रथम I would like to thank Anand Ganu, founder of Garje Marathi, for having us here and immensely proud of the movement he started. मी त्याला चळवळच म्हणतो काय अर्थाने. त्यांनी सगळ्या मराठी लोकांना एकत्र आणण्याचा हे केलेला उपक्रम अत्यंत कौतुकास्पद आहे. सो थँक्स आनंदजी फॉर दॅट. त्याच्यानंतर ललित शिंदे यांनी हे सगळं इव्हेंट ऑर्गनाईज केला आहे. त्यांना आणि त्यांच्या टीमला अभिनंदन या फॅसिलिटीमध्ये इव्हेंट केल्याबद्दल. सो द रिझन आय एम हिअर इज टू टॉक अबाउट माइंडसेट अँड जो इज गोइंग टू टेक अस थ्रू दॅट प्रोसेस हिअर. सो गर्जे मराठीचा एक ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह आहे की नेटवर्किंग अँड मेंटरिंग आणि दुसरा आहे की थीम ऑफ दिस सेंट्रल थीम ऑफ दिस कन्व्हेन्शन टुडे इज ग्रो विथ अ पर्पज. आणि जेव्हा आपण पर्पज एक ग्रोथ म्हणतो, ग्रोथ डजंट कम जस्ट लाईक दॅट. ग्रोथ वी ऑल डिझायर टू ग्रो पर्सनली, प्रोफेशनली अँड एज अ कम्युनिटी. आणि जेव्हा कम्युनिटीतला खरं सगळं ग्रो होतो तेव्हा ती कम्युनिटी पण ग्रो होते त्याच्या कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन. सो पर्सनल ग्रोथ, प्रोफेशनल अँड पर्सनल इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट. To that point, growth doesn't come just like that. Growth is a product, as Upendra just mentioned, of having right mindset to grow. And mindset is a product of a technique, having the right technique in place, as well as having a practice of many years. As you say, any sports person, you see there is a technique and there is a practice. So today we have the honor of having Joe, my mentor and coach here. And again, the aspect of mentoring is very important in Garje Marathi's domain. So we have Joe here who is going to walk us through a few techniques of his and about how to develop that mindset. Talk a few things about Joe. Joe is a very accomplished business leader, having served on many companies at C-level suite. He now is on board of many companies as well as college on the East Coast. Joe is also an investor and a coach. He coaches today and mentors a lot of Fortune 500 executives and entrepreneurs, including students as well. So with that, I will hand it off to Joe to walk us through his experiences and how do we develop a mindset. Just for the audience benefit, Joe is also going to have a workshop, a 90-minute workshop, which will be a hands-on workshop. So I encourage all of you to participate. Although I believe there is going to be some space limitations, so please make sure that you are there on time and so we can start on time in the breakout sessions. Thanks. With that, big round of applause for Joe. Here you go.
Good afternoon. It is afternoon. And I know that I'm standing between you and lunch, so this is always not an enviable position. Thank you very much, Umesh. Thank you, Nad, for inviting me. Thank you for the whole organization for having me. It's been great so far. If you looked at all the speakers before me, there are a lot of high-powered politicians. There were a lot of high-powered executives and academics. There were a lot of people. I'm not any of those. But if you're interested in activating your full potential, I'm the guy to talk to. So today we're going to talk a little bit about growth. And I'm going to start with a little story. There's a guy who is named Goggins, who happens to be the world's toughest man. How he got that? He ran in 1 year, he ran over 100 ultramarathons. Those marathons over 50 miles. He started off as a fat kid in Buffalo, New York. He wrote his memoir that says, the first chapter says, I should have been a statistic. Because he grew up in a crime-ridden neighborhood. His father was of questionable ethics and business practices, plus he was abusive. It would have been very easy for David Goggins to become a criminal in Buffalo, New York. But he didn't. He became the first person ever to qualify in the United States military for the Navy SEALs, the Army Rangers, and the Air Force pre-positioned airplane spotters. He also, as I said, has been given the name the toughest man on earth. How did he do that? He did that with his mind. His mindset set him up to be able to complete all of those seemingly impossible tasks. I'll tell you about another person. If I was to write my own memoir, my first paragraph could say, I should not be here. I grew up in a home in middle-class America. Both of my parents were alcoholics. They didn't care whether I went to school. They didn't care whether I got a job. They didn't care anything about the five of us. And it wasn't until 2.5 years ago that I found out that my father had a second family at the same time. Right? So, here I am, and I'm saying, I've got to go to school. I got married. I've got to go to school because I'm working jobs which I know are limited. I'm not going to be able to afford to live in a house. I'm not going to be able to afford to do anything. So I decide to go to school. I go to school, and my father passes away. I have to quit school and ask my mother and help my mother out. 10 years later, I went back to school and I finished. And what I did was learn my material. My mindset was set to say, I'm going to make the most out of this because I'm paying for it myself. Throughout my entire career, I've worked at some of the best companies on the planet. And in each one of those companies, every job that I competed for, I competed against people that went to the Harvard Business School, to Tuck at Dartmouth, to MIT, to Caltech, to Stanford, and Wharton. All those schools, top MBA programs. I went to a little school in Boston, Massachusetts called Suffolk University. I shouldn't have been in those jobs. I shouldn't have gotten those jobs, but I did because I knew that I had to find a way, and I had the mindset that was going to make me be able to compete with the best. And the way to do that was I had to learn my material, and I also had to learn how to communicate. And so what I'm going to give you is a little amuse-bouche, a little bit of a taste of what we're going to, Umesh and I are going to do in our workshop in a little while, so let's get started. We're going to talk about mindset building. What I want you to do is I want you to imagine two gardens. The first garden is a little bit overrun. It's got flowers in it, but it's a little bit overrun. The second garden is meticulously planned. It has organization. It has direction. Those are the key things that you need to do and have to develop your mindset on how to win. You need to have organization. You need to find a way to filter through all of the trash and crap, all the stuff that comes across your desk, and find the important, vital things to work on, because there just aren't enough hours in the day for you to work on anything. And then the second thing you need to be able to do is you need to be able to communicate that. So we have here a lot of very accomplished business people, but we also have some entrepreneurs, we have students, and we have rising leaders. This talk is for you. The entrepreneurs, the rising leaders, and the students. Next slide, please. The importance of having a mindset. A mindset is a framework for decision making. It's the prioritization that guides us in the things that we do. Right? That's okay. First time with my new feet. Effective communications, the second part of the mindset is the effective communication process. Clear communication is the backbone of any successful endeavor. If you're an entrepreneur and want to be able to get people to invest in your company, what do you have to do? You've got to be able to get them interested right away. I had a boss not too long ago, very smart boss. He's considered one of the best CEOs in the country. He's been written up in magazines for it. But I knew that every time I presented to him, I had two challenges. One, he had a very short attention span. I had 15 seconds to get him interested or the phone comes out, and he starts doing texts and emails. So the second thing was his phone. I used to try to get his secretary or his assistant to take the phone away from him. It didn't work. 15 seconds to get him involved. So it has to be targeted very carefully. And then you have to have consistency developed through practice. You have to find a way to continue to repeat, and repeat. Next slide, please. Okay. Let's say I'm told by Umesh that the busiest city from your region is Mumbai, right? But we're very close to New York, and I spent a lot of time in New York, and to be frankly, I couldn't find a picture of Mumbai. I know there's tons of them, but I didn't want to pay $75 for it, okay? So this is a picture, and I want you to imagine being on a busy street corner in New York City or Mumbai. And you have a set of directions. You've taken out your phone. You've got Google Maps. You've got Waze. You've got all kinds of, maybe even Apple Maps. And you're trying to figure out how to get from one point to another. And it's on your map. And you're walking down, and you're on your map, and you're probably not watching where you're going, because that's the way it is. You're walking down, and you come to an intersection. And that intersection is unbelievably busy, just like this picture. This was actually going to be a video. But it's like this picture. There's all sorts of noise and smells and people and confusion. And how do you get across this street? You know you're going to get there. That's the goal, but how do you get there? You have to have a system by which you can filter out all the things that are unimportant. Next slide, please. So let me tell you my decision-making and prioritization. And in the workshop, I'm going to go into how I developed this. So it might be interesting if you want to stick around. Okay? I want to introduce you to Joe's Top 5. Joe's Top 5 for me is my operating system. Whenever I'm confronted with an issue or a problem, I spin down through these top 5 and say, is it covered by one of these top 5? If it is, pick and dispose. It's done. That gives me the 80% of my time to work on the 20% of the most vital things. Most people spend 88% of their time working on the stuff that doesn't matter, right? So that's how I make decisions. I use Joe's Top 5. It's my operating system. Problem comes to me, I filter it through. Those top 5 are, and we heard this from other speakers today, it's not about you, right? Leadership is about serving others and putting the team's needs first. An example that I usually use is the conductor of an orchestra. The conductor of an orchestra doesn't play a single note. Picks the music, sets the time, but doesn't play a single note. Without the people playing the bassoons, the violins, and the cellos, and all the other instruments, nothing happens. The conductor needs to understand that. The conductor gets all the accolades, right? The second one is you need to participate and be present in everything that you do. I needed to find a way. As I got further and further up in the companies that I worked for, I used to get hundreds, literally hundreds, of meeting invitations every single day. And if I went to them, I wouldn't get anything done. But I also knew that my team and the people that worked with me wanted me to be there because they wanted my opinion about what was going on there. So I said to myself, if I'm going to go, I'm going to participate. I'm going to be there in full, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to participate. And if I can't give it my all, I decline the meeting and send them a note, say, sorry, can't come, send me the minutes. The next one is to listen, because when you're talking, you're not listening. Famous Greek philosopher said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we talk. But I would defy anybody to tell me that they can really understand and comprehend what's going on when you're talking. It's just not possible, right? So listen. Make your own decisions and be prepared to defend them. Stand by your choices with confidence and clarity. Yeah. as I became higher and higher in the organization, moved my way up, I would go to meetings. And I always had this approach where I always made questions. Right? I always asked questions. When somebody would say something, I'd say, "Are you sure?" And I would try to dig down, to make sure they were sure. Many, many people that I talked to, the first time I said, "I'm sure," they started to have doubts. Right? And then they say, "Well, maybe he's saying that because I'm wrong." No, I'm saying it because I'm trying to figure out if you know what you're talking about. And I want to know if you have enough commitment to defend your decisions. Right? So make your own decisions and be prepared to defend them. The next one, we heard this also today. Introspection and humility are the keys to your legacy. You will not be remembered by the job you had, how many people work for you, how much money you make. You will be remembered by the people that you guided through their careers, the values you imparted on them, and how they use those values to build their future. That's your legacy. And the only way you can do that with any sense of commitment is to take and be introspective and understand everything you're doing and be extremely clear about your communications. This framework helps you cut through the noise and the focus and get to what truly matters. Might even get you across the street. Next slide, please. So, earlier in my career, and I was talking to somebody earlier from Citibank, I interviewed for a job as an operating executive at a well-known private equity firm. I went through 5 rounds of interviews. The managing partner came to me and said, "Joe, you're doing great. One more interview. And that's with our industrial psychologist." I walked down the hall, and before I even sat down in my chair, she barked at me, literally attacked me, and she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm an executive at a large multinational corporation." "No, what do you do?" "Well, I'm the senior vice president of operations for a company called Carrier Corporation. I have $12 billion in revenue, 60,000 employees, and 160 factories." "No, what do you do?" And I knew at that moment that I was in the deep yogurt. I was in serious, serious trouble. I was not communicating effectively with this woman. I wasn't listening to what she was saying, and I wasn't giving her the answer she wanted. So I sat back, took a deep breath, thought about it for a second, and in a flash of brilliance, I said, "I'm a leader. I help people accomplish things they never thought possible." She said, "Okay." Look, I didn't get the job. But I did learn the importance of communication. It was a seminal moment, an inflection point in my career. From that moment on, I knew that I had to communicate effectively, with clarity and consistency. Next slide, please. So effective communication isn't just about conveying information. Remember, communication is two-way, right? It's about telling a story. Storytelling inspires, right? You need to provide context. And this is another thing that we get into in the workshop, so please, if you want to, come. You need to get personal, share relatable stories about yourself that resonate with your audience, and seek feedback. Watch the people. One of the things that I don't really like doing is giving blind webinar presentations where I can't see the people in the room's face. Because I can tell from your eyes whether or not what I'm saying is resonating. I once had a manager that told me, "Look at the eyes. If the eyes are dull, you're done. D equals done." Okay? If they're shiny, you're doing swell. Keep it brief. Keep your stories concise and maintain engagement. Hopefully I did that. And aim to connect and foster a sense of camaraderie and shared experience. You want them to know this, they need to get this job done, not because you're going to get a promotion. You need to get it done because the team needs you to get it done. Next slide, please. And then one of the things that people miss the most about leadership is you have to be consistent. You have to be relatable, but you also have to be consistent where people know what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. They know how you're going to deal with a situation. They may not like the answer, but they know that you deal with it the same way every time. I use Joe's top 5 for that. I go down through it. I have my mantra. And growth is a continuous learning process. I was at a speech like this and somebody asked me, have you ever changed your top 5? I said, every single time I look at my top 5, I ask myself, is these still the same top 5? And to this day, they are. And I originally did this in 2009. Okay? And I've been very consistent. And I'm pretty clear about the top 5. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice and refine your skills. Next slide. So, in conclusion, hopefully I don't have to say conclusion because you already know, but in conclusion, purposeful growth involves structured approach, the right mindset, right? Robust decision-making framework, effective communication, and consistent practices. By embracing these principles, we grow with purpose, which happens to be one of the goals and mantras of this meeting, right? Grow with purpose. And achieve our desired outcomes. So I encourage you to start implementing these principles today. And if you want to know more about them, about how I effectively do decision-making process and how I develop communication, come to the workshop. But if you consistently apply these, we will grow with purpose and have a lasting impact, not only on our journey, but the journey of those around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe, for those words of wisdom, I would say. Appreciate you traveling all the way from California here for us, this summit. I hope all of you enjoyed this. And if you want, we have a workshop, as you mentioned, in the breakout time. Probably that time is being worked out yet, but we have a workshop where Joe would walk us through this process of developing your own technique and improving on your communications and stuff like that. So please be present there and appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.